Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome everyone, and on behalf of Learnbay, I welcome you all for this webinar on SQL fundamentals. Myself Sylvia, and I will be your trainer for these 2 days on this webinar. So I'll give a short introduction about myself. So I do have over 10 years of experience in the industry, and I've been into the training sector for the last 4 years, wherein I do take trainings, especially on big data, which is my core area, and all the related technologies around big data is what I do handle. Um, and SQL, Python, data science using Python, all these areas. I do take trainings by going to corporates and also to consultancies like Learnbay. So having said that, so today and tomorrow we will be talking about SQL, which will be absolutely at a beginner level for a person who don't have any idea about what is this SQL, and you want to know more about it. You want to have a whole-fledged idea behind it, then it is just for you. So before I start, I would like to set certain things. We do have around 90 people with us so far. I hope people will be joining. A kind request to all of you is to please stay on mute as much as possible, because we are having a good number. Sometimes the background noises can hinder the classes happening. If you have any question, if you want that to be clarified right away, please do raise your hand. If you feel like putting them on the chat box cannot serve the purpose, you want to talk and make things clear, very well, most welcome. But please do use the raise hand option so that I will be notified, and I will stop my lecture in between so that you can ask the question. Okay. And apart from that, if you have any other questions, please feel free to put it on the chat box. Let's try to address, I will try to address as many questions as possible. So please do keep all your questions coming up on the chat. So in between the sessions, I'll take a short amount of time through which we will discuss all those questions. Okay, yeah. So setting all those straight, so let's get inside. But just want to know from all of you, like, what do you think or what are your thoughts about SQL? So I hope somewhere or the other you would have heard it, or maybe some of you are working in the industry but not in SQL with some other technology. So it would be great if you can share your thoughts, maybe a max of 5 minutes we can spend on that, or what do you think SQL is. You can go ahead and post it on the chat as well. What is SQL from your point of view? Yeah. So welcoming again all who have just joined us. So I just asked a simple question on what do you think SQL is? So yeah, if you guys go ahead and put it out, what are your thoughts on the chat box? It would be great for us to start. Query language to communicate with the database, great Harish. And SQL is basically a platform where we store and manage data. Okay, slightly a partial answer, Shweta, but I will be happy to help on clearing that. But then thanks to both of you for that answer. Any other point of view apart from these two? Apart from the query language, apart from a platform which helps to manage the data, any other answers or any other views? Okay, we can retrieve data that is required for us. Okay, great, Sirisha. It is used for storing and retrieving the database. Okay, retrieving data from the database. It is easily accessible. Great. Again, that's again a perfect answer. Standard language for storing, managing, and retrieving data. I think most of you know about SQL, I believe. So most of your answers especially contains all these terminologies that we do use in SQL, right? Like data, database, language, DB, communicate with the database. Great, it's a good start. Access and manipulate databases. Yes, Roshni. Yes, Shaikh. Great. So please keep your answers coming. Parallelly, I bring my other screen and share it. So let's begin. So language to manage data in database management system. Great, great. Bruschetta, yes. Great, guys. So most of your answers are up to the mark, exactly like what I have been expecting. So let me bring my screen and let's start with the learning. Okay. So as most of you are saying, SQL is basically nothing but it's a programming language, right? But I'm not going to straight away start with any technical words or technical terms here by saying data, database, relational database management system. I generally like to start my SQL sessions in this way. So I would like to start it with a very simple example. Okay. So imagine there is a person. Okay, so I'm just giving her a name called Ria. Okay, it could be any person. So she's been interested in opening up a store. Okay, so she's interested in opening a fashion store in India across 3 different states. Now, she is planning to sell some apparels like for kids, for women, for boys, for men. So most of the apparel she's trying to deal with, and she's planning to set up a store, a physical store. Okay, like where in offline shopping, we go to the shops and purchase. Okay. So she's having this thought in mind, and finally she's putting it into terms, and she started building her own business, and she hired places in 3 different cities. So let's call the 3 cities that she's looking for is in India. It's in Bangalore, Chennai, and Mumbai. So she has set up her um, business. She has opened her store and she started selling dresses. Now, what happened is slowly her business starts picking in and she needs to handle all this data. Now, she needs a person at the back end on her store who sit and gather all this data and store it in a format so that it can be useful for her whenever she quickly needs to grab some data. For example, like as you see here, now every store she would have registered, right? So obviously the store would have got some registration number. I'm referring that as an ID. And the name of a store could be any name and the city where the particular store is and under which state that particular city comes in India. Now, she needs to maintain these details. So imagine she is not having any technical background. She's not having any idea on IT. So whatever she knows from her little knowledge, she is trying to open up an Excel sheet and she is feeding these details. So in one single table, she is feeding these values and she is okay, making sure, okay, so far I have 3 stores and these are the stores that I have named and they are available in so and so cities. Then she slowly started thinking about, okay, what are all the other data that I have to basically maintain. Then she comes up with, okay, let me also mark down what are all the products that I'm selling so that in future, if in case I want to add any products, I will not be duplicating it, right? Suppose I'm having one particular product. Now in that particular product, I'm selling that particular product from a store. Now I don't want to recreate that same product. I just have to duplicate them, right? I can, for example, let's say if it is a simple suit, okay, then she has to make multiple copies of the suit and she can move on to some other design, right? For that reason, she wants to list down what are all the products that she is keeping at a store level. So then she thought, okay, let me add these details also so that whenever I need, I can take it and I can also be very clear with whatever I'm right now having. She also thought of adding the material on which the particular product has been made. and from which vendor she has sourced those products, right? Suppose she is tailoring a beautiful gown, then she has to mark down from which vendor she has sourced the necessary materials for the same, right? So that next time if an order comes, or if she herself wants to make another gown, she can directly go to that vendor. It will be quick reference for her, right? So she thought of gathering these details in an another table. The same way, as business slowly starts picking in and order starts falling in, right? Now when more number of orders start coming in, I need to maintain it for multiple reasons. I need to have an account of how many products so far I have sold, and what is the amount right now I have in hand and right now that has been sold out, what are the different payment modes customers are using, and their contact numbers so that I can contact them for any coupons or discounts, right? So she is preparing an another table for that, and she started storing these details. So far she finds it good, because she knows how to handle things in an Excel sheet. So she's preparing this and she's good with that. Okay. But where the problem starts coming in, once she starts her business, I mean, once a business picks up and she started sourcing more materials, she started selling more products, more amount of orders starts coming in. Maybe it could be a festive time wherein she started getting more number of orders. Handling all of them in an Excel sheet is becoming a huge job for her, because she needs to feed in all the values, and it's becoming very tough for her. If in case she missed, finding the missed ones becomes another challenge for her. Also, for some reason, if she immediately wants to know what is the sale of my particular product which are there in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu, then in that case, she basically has to connect the data from the three tables. Then manually doing them become even more challenge for her. So basically, she needs to go what are her shops in Chennai, which is under Tamil Nadu, and then she has to take it. Then she has to find how many products are there in that particular store, and among those products, how many get sold out. So it becomes really a tough job for her in manually seeing these data. Agreed? So able to get this example on how the data has to be maintained for a very simple business. Great. So you can keep putting your answers, or if you want to share some thought, please do make use of the chat box. Yes, thanks for that acknowledgement. So the data has been stored inside the Excel sheet, and though she initially find it good, but then slowly when the data size becomes more, it becomes hard for her to handle it. So she's thinking of, is there any way that I can approach a person from the IT who can handle this data very well? And whenever I ask a question, I need to immediately get an answer by seeing all this data. I should not be manually go to, okay, go to this particular column name, go to this particular row. It becomes very challenging for me. So now imagine she's approaching a person whom she knows working in the IT. Now the person will be immediately suggesting, why don't you go for something like an RDBMS? Okay, RDBMS here stands for Relational Database Management System. Okay, I'll write that. Maybe there will be few of you who will not be knowing about this term. So for the benefit of those people, I'll be writing them down. Just give me a second. So she got an idea to keep the entire data in an RDBMS. Now, what is an RDBMS? It's nothing but Relational Database Management System. Heard about this word before? Yes, it's called RDBMS. Yes, so some of you have heard about this term, which is great, right? So now what is this is simply put, so especially for people who don't have any idea what is these letters, RDBMS sounds crazy. Relax, it is nothing but a simple software which helps you to manage storing the data easily and handling them also easily whenever you need to retrieve the data. To be simply put, I've been using that example of Excel sheet so far. So you know how to write something inside Excel sheet and how to read it. By opening the Excel file, you can have a look on the data and you can read it. On the other way, when the data becomes really complex and you need the data to be stored in a place, and not only storing is enough, you need to retrieve them whenever you need quickly, not like a manual way wherein you go to column number 1, column number 2. No, you have to write some statements, and using those statements the data has to be retrieved really quickly. Now that is where RDBMS comes in picture. Okay, now how she is going to handle it, we'll see. So now she got a response from somebody, like as I said, she approached a person under IT and she got a response. You must go for an RDBMS. And they started explaining her what is this RDBMS and how it will be useful for. Now, there are few terminologies here, few technical terminologies that you have to be aware of. So I will be addressing them one by one. You will be having something called data. And most of you know what is data, right? The actual information that you are looking to store and process or to retrieve. Now you're going to store the data in the format of tables. You know how a table will look like, and a table will be consisting of multiple rows and multiple columns inside. The one that the data that you are seeing on the horizontal sections are basically the rows, and the data that you are seeing them on the vertical sections are called columns, right? Now these data will be stored in the format of a table. Now like this, there will be multiple tables. Now all these tables you can keep inside one single database. So the hierarchy goes like this. Initially, there will be a database under which there will be table 1, table 2, table 3, and so on. And within the tables, you will be having different rows and columns. The sizes, it depends. Every table will have its own number of rows and columns. Based on that, the data will be stored. Now, the more databases I build, ideally the more the structure, the data that I'm going to keep inside my entire RDBMS itself will become huge. For example, see this. So she started slowly, she started building different businesses also. Initially, she was having only the fashion store, which is a clothing business. Then slowly she started her business on cosmetics and also on furnishing. Okay. Now, like this, just a second. Yeah. Now, slowly she started building her business under different streams, under clothing, under cosmetics, under furnishing, and within which she started maintaining multiple data. Now, obviously, the moment she started storing data, she is in need of different tables, right? Now, see the data from what she was initially to the place right now she is in. Initially, she was in need of only the clothing business, under which she would be having maximum 3 or 4 tables. Now you can slowly see how her business gets bigger, and also the data that is revolving around the business are also becoming huge. And hence, managing them in a simple Excel sheet cannot serve the purpose. So what she started doing is she started building different databases for different businesses. And within every database, she started having all the data stores in the format of table. Now, this entire structure is nothing but your relational database management system. Now, basically, it is managing your data in a much experienced and much well-versed way. Now, there are a lot of such relational database systems available under the industry. So we do have something called MySQL, we do have Oracle, we do have Postgre, we do have SQL Server, Teradata, DB2. There are multiple other RDBMS which are helping you to manage data in this particular format. Now, there are a lot of advancement in this also, but I'm just trying to bring you the very basics. Slowly, we will get you into little advanced areas. Now, these tables which are there in between every DB, right? They can also be related to each other. So now within the databases, I can store multiple tables. Now, these tables can also be connected to each other. Now, any idea what do you think is connection between the tables? What I mean by connection between the tables, or the tables get related to each other? What do we call the relations between the tables, or how tables can be related to each other? See, okay, some row or column or attribute would be same by keys, maybe. Yes, great answers. So let's take this example itself, no? So you will be having better idea on that. Since yeah, so if you see this table itself, I could find some or the other columns common in between the tables. Now, what is the point in keeping them common? Maybe if I want to find out where this style creations are, or how many products this style creations is basically having, and from what are all the vendors this style creations is basically sourcing, right? I'll repeat. I have a question on, if I want to know what are all the list of products which are available under the shop, say style creations, and from what are all the vendors the products inside the style creations have been sourced, from who I have sourced the products for this particular store, then certainly I know the list of products and the vendors are available in the table number 2, right? I'm just giving some names so that we can refer them easily. So in order to know these, in order to understand, or in order to find out the answer for the questions, we basically need the list of products and the list of vendors with respect to the store. And I quickly know that my table 2 is having all those details. So I have to first go under style creations. Okay, S02 is the store ID, because I don't know the store ID. I only know the store name. So then first find out what is the store ID for your store name, called style creations, and then use that particular store ID to go and find out what are all the products which are available under this particular store and from which vendors I have sourced, right? Now, in order to do this connection, basically there are one or two columns that has to be common between these tables. And in my case, I could very clearly see store ID is a common column between both this. And that is how they get related to each other. So one store ID from here can have multiple entries inside table 2. So if I pick any one store from the table 1, let's say store ID 1, it will have multiple entries inside table 2. Now, why multiple entries? Because in table 2, I'm maintaining the details at a product level. So under my store 1, there will be product 1, 2, 3, and 4. So like this, one value from table 1 can be related with multiple value in table 2. Now, this is called relationships between tables. And in RDBMS, I can easily maintain those relationships between the tables, which basically helps me to achieve or to find out certain use cases that I'm looking for. All three would have a table to track orders. Yes, Sachin. Store ID is a primary key. Great. But then let's not talk about primary key right now, Shaik, because I will be anyways explaining, because we do have people who don't have idea on primary key too. So I'll just try to bring them lighter now. Slowly I will take and explain about what we mean by the keys. Okay. And I think I had a questions. There are IDE. Yes, Harish, there are IDEs. I will be showing you an IDE today, and I will be writing some SQL statements and commands are also inside that. So I would recommend all of you to have an IDE if you are interested in learning SQL. Please do go ahead and install any one of the IDE that I'm mentioning here. I'm going to stick to MySQL because any one IDE I have to choose to show you how the practice will be, I mean, how the statements has to be written. So I'm picking up here MySQL as the RDBMS tool that I'm going to use. And it has an IDE called Workbench. But then you can pick up any one, because the good news is all these RDBMS are going to use the language called SQL in order to communicate with your data inside the RDBMS. Like you would have learned some or the other programming language before, maybe C, C++, or Python or Java. Now that language is basically used to communicate with any kind of data coming in any pattern, and you can achieve certain use cases. The same way, SQL is one of the language which helps us to query, or which helps us to process and store the data which has a structured format like this. Okay. MySQL is an RDBMS, Harish. The language that we are see, okay, there are some questions from few people. I have seen these questions been coming up from a lot of freshers. What is MySQL and SQL? Are both same, or why they have been called, why they look very similar? Anybody wants to answer that? Anybody have idea on that? Anybody wants to answer that? Because as Harish asked a question, I thought, okay, let's clear this first. What is the difference between MySQL and SQL? MySQL is IDE and SQL is a language. Abhishek, you have to check your answer. See, by seeing my slide itself, you guys can make out, right? Now, I've been talking about RDBMS here, and I said there are different RDBMS out there in the industry. So MySQL is one of your relational database management system, or in short, it is one of the RDBMS which helps to maintain the structured data inside it. It is a storage and maintenance software which helps to store the structured data inside it. Now I need to communicate with that RDBMS, right? Like for example, I'm giving you a file and I'm asking you to process it. Now you will process it through Python or you will process it through Java. So how you are communicating with the system? You are communicating through the language called Python. You are speaking to the system and system understands your requirement and it processes. The same way, here the relational database management system, which is nothing but my MySQL, is storing all these data inside it. And now I need to talk to my RDBMS so that I can retrieve the data. Or if I want to extract only certain type of data, I need to communicate with my RDBMS, right? Now the language through which I will communicate is called SQL, Structured Query Language. So SQL is a common language which all of your RDBMSs are using in order to communicate with the data stored inside. Okay, I'll repeat one more time. SQL is nothing but the language which RDBMS is using in order to communicate with the data stored inside it. So MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server, Postgre, Windows SQL Server, Teradata, DB2, all these are nothing but different RDBMS that are coming from different organizations. Is that clear, Harish, now? I think that was a question from Harish. So database, exactly, Harish. What you have mentioned is right. And thanks for that answer from Mohammed too. SQL is a language and MySQL is a database. Okay, so please do make this very straight, because I know it, especially for beginners, it could be a little confusing. People are saying SQL and people are saying MySQL. So what do they mean? So simple, understand MySQL is nothing but an RDBMS within which I can store my tables. Now I need to communicate with the table. For that, I am going to use my language, which is nothing but SQL. Great. Now let's move forward. Now like this, let's imagine she started building lot of tables. Let's again come back to Ria and her business. So in every business of her, she's coming up with different tables. And as I said, every table will have a column which will also be present in another table, by which the tables can be related to each other. And one record from here can have multiple record in another table, like the store example that I have taken, right? A store number one, which is taken from table number one, will have multiple entries inside table number two, because inside store one, I will have multiple products being sold. Got it? So these are the relationships between a table. So now if you go into any organization, any IT, wherein you give this huge data, they will combine all this table and they will come up with a picture that you see something like this. Now, we are not going to go so deeper into it because we are not here to learn ER diagrams. So they are basically called as entity relationship models. The relationships between these tables can be understandable from this model. Now, we are going to focus on how I'm going to talk with all these tables, right? How I'm going to communicate with all these tables through a programming language called SQL. Okay. Are we clear till now? Because I'm going to step into the next part of our agenda for today, which is stepping inside the lab. First, I'll show you what is RDBMS that I'm going to use, how to have it. But before that, any questions on so far? Which is the basics of RDBMS. What is table, what is row, what is column, what is relational database management system? Are we completely clear?
Hello.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you say another example, madam? How we will use SQL? Just
see, okay, I'll come to that, but let me see, is there any other question in the chat box? Clear for now, yes, yeah. So that was, may I know the person who asked the question? What's the name?
Prashant, ma'am.
Prashant, okay. See, Prashant, a simple, I mean, have you been with us from the very starting?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay, so have you understood that example of the fashion store that I was talking about?
Yeah, only that about, ma'am. I have doubt.
Okay, what is the doubt?
Open fashion store.
Okay,
I did not understand that example.
okay. See, okay, let's take you as an example. Okay, let's say Prashant wants to open an educational institute. Okay, for example, you want to start an institute wherein you are going to offer few courses for students who are coming to learn. Okay, now you are offering courses on different technologies. For example, starting from very basic programming languages, like you are going to offer C, C++, Python, and maybe for students who are prepping up for the colleges for their professional degrees. Now you will be offering different courses, right? Right, Prashant?
Yes.
Now, for all these courses, you will be having some materials, list of course contents, and you will be fixing a fee also for that. Now, you are interested in maintaining all these in a tabular structure. So you are initially writing, okay, I want to create a table called courses, your institute name, what are all the courses that will be offered under that institute, and what will be the fees for every course, who will be the trainer for every course. Like this, you are maintaining a structured data in a simple Excel sheet. Okay, then next, information. So apart from this, what are all the information you will be interested in storing with respect to your institute?
Yeah. Some some courses, ma'am.
Okay. You will be maintaining about students.
Yes.
That is very important, right?
Yeah,
Now,
yes.
for example, you will be giving some student registration number or something for every student they are enrolling with you, and you will be giving their names. What is the course that they are registering with, and what is the time that they are looking out with? Because next time when they come, you will be telling them, see, these time slots have been occupied before by some students, so the newcomers cannot go into that particular slot. So you are maintaining all these details separately in a table. So one table you are maintaining only for courses, one table you are maintaining just for students, okay, and other table you are maintaining for your own um, uh, amount, I mean budget related purposes, like what is the compensation that you have to pay for every individual trainer who is taking classes, whether it is hourly compensation or course wise compensation. Those details you are maintaining in another table. Now, once your courses have been picked up and more number of students starts coming into your training center, obviously the data becomes huge. You have to go ahead feed every time a new student is enrolling inside an Excel sheet. Now the data becomes really bigger. You started having multiple branches inside a city. Now the data needs to be collated together, right? You need to bring all of them inside one single place, because you are having a branch in one location of Bangalore, one location of Chennai, one location in Mumbai, one in Hyderabad. Now I don't want the data to be scattered. I want to keep all of them in one single place. Now, in those times, also if I want to see, okay, what is a detail about a particular student, searching that student inside Excel sheet becomes really complex over a period of time, like because the data gets bigger and bigger. Now, in those times, going for a software like RDBMS really helps you, not just in storing huge data, but also to retrieve them really quick. Okay. Now the RDBMS will take care of what are all your requirements. And suppose I'm saying, okay, I want the detail about student 101. What is the course that he has enrolled for? In which location he has enrolled for? To which trainer currently he is studying? And what other times this trainer has been coming, if in case they ask for a compensation class. So all these detail you can easily get it from an RDBMS. But the same thing, if you are still maintaining in an Excel sheet, it involves a lot of manual work. Got it?
Yes.
Great. Coming to some questions, entity attribute, I'll come to that, Harish, in a little while. I'll show you in your um, um, RDBMS IDE. That time I'll tell you. Difference between database management system and RDBMS. See, there is a very small difference, Sudarshini. So when the databases are individually being there is no need to have any communication between them. Then you will keep them isolated inside a DBMS. But no DBMS isolated we are using right now in the industry, because we need lot of relationships between the tables. and hence you will be sticking into RDBMS only. So nowadays we do have only RDBMS in place. It is nothing but the relationships once started, exploring, then it becomes basically your RDBMS. And that is what clients are looking for nowadays. I don't need isolated databases, right? Then there's no point. So let me ask you to have an RDBMS. Again, it is up to you. You can go ahead with any RDBMS that you feel that you are comfortable with, because at the end, all of them are going to use the same programming language, SQL. Now, I'm going to have MySQL. I'm going to explain all these terms on top of an RDBMS called MySQL. So now, if in case you have MySQL with me, great, you can go ahead with that. But if you want, or if you are the one who is starting it very fresh, then please do go and search for download MySQL Workbench. Now, the Workbench is basically nothing but the IDE that helps you to communicate with your RDBMS. Like, for example, all of you know about Python, right? Now, what are all the different IDEs we do have for Python? What are all the IDEs you guys use for Python or for any programming language, not necessarily Python? Great. Spider, Jupyter, Anaconda, PyCharm. Great. Now, like this, we do have lot of IDEs available for every individual RDBMS. Now, for MySQL, there is something called Workbench. Okay, so just search for it, and this is the first link. The very first link that you see is nothing but the link for downloading it. So go ahead and click on it. It will ask you where you want to install, on what is your operating system, where you want to install. If you are looking out for Windows, just go for Windows. If you are looking out for any other operating system, like you have a Mac, you have a Linux, then accordingly select it. Okay, and then click on download. Now you might find two installers here, 32 and 64-bit, and this is 64-bit. Now this is the community edition. Can you see? This is the Workbench Community Edition. So please go ahead and click on this download. It will download a simple exe and it will open up a wizard for you. Okay, I'll close this and open fresh. So you can see. Now, once you run that wizard, just follow the wizard. It is a very simple one, which will automatically download and install MySQL inside your machine. Click on this and then it will automatically be installed on your machine. And this is the screen that you will get. The Workbench will be your IDE for your MySQL. So this is the look of your IDE. I'll explain about the different things that you can see here, and then we can start working with some queries inside. By that time, I will also explain you what is an attribute, what is a row, what are all the conditions that I can enforce on an attribute. All those we'll see. But for right now, let's understand this is a home screen. Okay. On your home screen, please follow me. On your home screen, on the left hand side, you will be finding three icons. Okay, I'll come to all of this. I'll come from the very left side. Okay, now the one that you see on the top, this is nothing but your RDBMS, which means under which I'm going to keep lot of different databases and tables. Now, when you see that this gets highlighted, you could see this arrow being pointing to it. So right now I'm pointing into that. Now come to the second one. The moment I click on the second one, here the arrow will come. And this is a place where I can build models. Like the one that I have showed in my slide, you can create different tables and you can set relationships between tables. So now in future, if you want to have a look on what are all the tables that I have, what are all the relationships that I have, you can come and see here on this model section. The third one will basically be, if at all I want to move my data from any one of the existing RDBMS into my MySQL RDBMS, you have to come here. you can basically do a quick migration from different RDBMS into your MySQL. So just understand that we are not going to do this. We are basically going to understand how to query, because that is a main aim of our webinar today, right? So come back here, make sure this is selected, and you can find some of the details here. So Workbench is the official GUI tool for MySQL. It allows you to design, create, and browse your schema, work with database, insert data, as well as design and run queries. Okay. Now, there are different links which can take you into whatever they mean. For example, if I click on the browse documentation section, it will take me into my official documentation section. Similarly, if I click on the blog, it will take me to the official blog section, wherein we can read about a lot of blogs that they have written. Similarly, the discussion forums, right? Now again, we don't need all of them right now. What is this one? This is the most important one for us. Now you will be seeing a connection here by default. When you finish your installation, it will ask you, you want to set up a connection, what is the username and password it will ask during the setup itself. You can simply provide a password and things are smooth. Now, the moment I click on this instance, you will be asked the username and the password. Now, the default username for all of us would be root, unless and until you manually change it. Now, by default, I download MySQL Workbench and have it on my system. My default username will always be root. And I can give the password associated with my username. Now, before I give the password and go inside, I would like to explain what is this instance. Now, once I have an workbench, I can create multiple instances inside my workbench. So what do you mean by this instance? Okay. To explain about the instance, I would like to again bring all of you to Ria's case, wherein I have showed you initially she was interested in bringing a fashion store, right? And then she started building another business under the cosmetics category and then under the furniture category. Now, slowly, when she started becoming great in her business, she'll have more amount of data. So let's imagine there are some 100 tables inside her fashion store. I mean, 100 tables within which there will be lot of data. Similarly, cosmetics, somewhere around some 500 tables inside it, somewhere around some 1,000 tables inside. Now, her main purpose is to store these data inside different databases, right? But she's saying, see, I know I have 3 individual business. I don't want all of them to be interrelated to each other, because this is a completely different category and this is a completely different category. Now I want to log in inside my software using a particular credential. And in that time, I will want to focus only about the fashion store, not about my other businesses. Then I will create a separate instance for my fashion store and will keep all these 100 tables inside that particular instance only. Similarly, I'll create another instance for cosmetics and I will keep all of my 500 table inside. Similarly, for furniture, I will keep all of my tables inside. Now, within cosmetics, again, there will be different databases, cosmetics under different sections for different people, different age group for different occasions, right? So like that. So instances are basically used to keep data under different category related to within that particular instance alone, so that it is mainly useful for me to go to that instance and stick with it. I don't have to worry about keeping all my data inside one instance and finding which one belongs to fashion, which one belongs to furniture. Now Click on the password and give your password. Now, once you give your password, let me explain you again. So forget about what are the things that you been seeing over here. So there are multiple queries that you could find here, but I'll explain all of them one by one. Okay, now this is how your IDE screen looks like. Once things are installed and once you are in the platform, this is how it will look like. On the very top, you will be seeing my instance name. And on the very left hand section of my screen, you will be finding something called as a navigator pane. Which one you want, Shaikh Sahir? Which one you want me to repeat? Okay, let from opening SQL, simple. Okay. So this is for Shaikh. He just want me to do it one more time. So I'm just going to MySQL Workbench. I have selected that. You can see this instance, the default instance. Click on that. I'm clicking my password. I'm giving my password and then I'm okay. Clear, Shaikh? It's a very simple operation. Fine. Now coming to understanding this ID, how this ID basically looks like. As I said, on the top, we have the instance name, and on the left-hand side, we do have the navigator pane. Now, in the navigator pane is where you will basically see what are all the databases we have, and within the databases, what are all the tables we have. Okay. Now, as you see here in my case, there are a lot of databases, and within every databases, there will be lot of tables. Now, the related tables I will keep inside one single database. Okay, so for example, if I go ahead and click on something like Learnbay underscore SQL, this is one of the database that I have. Now, within which you can find something like tables, views, procedures, and functions. Now, if I click on the table, then I could see there are multiple tables inside that particular database. Okay. Now, like this, I can go ahead and create a new database also, and I can keep tables inside. That I'll explain now. Now, after that, come to the bottom screen. The bottom screen is basically for the information. For example, I'm going here, I'm clicking on tables, I'm clicking on something called building. The moment I click on building, I find on the information section, it tells me what are all the fields or the attributes. So somebody asked this. Attributes are also known as columns or also known as fields. At the end, all refers to the same thing. So now these are all the columns which are available inside a particular table. So that information you can find on this section. Now come to your right side. Now right side, you could see this pane, right? Now this is your very important pane, or this is a place where you will do your work. Now all your queries you will write here, and the queries you can execute. You can queries in the sense a command. So right now, maybe if you're not aware on what is queries, just understand some commands we are going to write, and those commands will ideally be communicating with all these tables. So your working will basically come under this section, and you will call this as a working pane. And the bottommost pane is basically called the output pane, which is very, very important. Any statement that I write here, and if I run it, now the result of that statement will be displayed here. Whether it is a correct statement or if it is a wrong statement, If at all it is a wrong statement, what is wrong on it, and how much time basically it will take in order to run that particular statement. Okay. These are the 4 different panes inside your IDE that you must be aware of. Now, apart from that, you will basically have few icons which are there on the top. Now, all of them right now you don't need to know, but then few of them I'll explain, which certainly helps you. Now, the very first one, if you go and keep your cursor itself, you will get some idea on it. So the moment I click on the very first one, I will be getting a new working pane. Okay, and I can write all my statements inside, and if I want I can save it also. Click on the can you see this this floppy symbol, the disk symbol? Click on it. It will ask you to save it as well. You can save it. Now when you save it, it gets saved under an extension called SQL file, because you have written lot of SQL commands inside. So whatever name that you are giving, under that name, it will create a file. Now imagine you have started up today, you have to break it in between. You want to start it all over again tomorrow. So you have to save this. So you can save this, and the next day when you want to open it, click on the next box. Can you see this? This next button. So click on that. That basically helps you to open. So go ahead and specify where you have saved, and accordingly that file will open so you can continue your work. So these two are mainly you will use. The third one is basically for quite useful for admins. So right now I'm not touching on this third one. So come to the fourth one. Fourth one is basically for creating a new database. Like as you see, there are a lot of databases here. Now, if suppose I want to create a new database, I can specify that new database here. I can give a name. So for example, I'm giving something called testing and then click on apply. Okay. You can do the same through command wise also. That also I'll explain, but this is through the icon. So I just click on this. I gave a name. Just simply click on apply. You don't have to make any changes. And once you click on the apply, you will automatically find the testing newly popped up here on the left hand side. Local inference MySQL is not opening. See, right now, if you want to practice and you don't want to install it right now because installation will take some time, you can use a lot of online SQL platforms, right? Like you do have this SQL Lite, you do have this W3 School. These are some of the online browser-based SQL tools wherein you can directly go and practice the queries. Like for time being, later after the webinar, you can go ahead and finish your installation. So you can build the schema here. So now sometimes it will take a little longer time for it to be displayed on the left hand side. So you can click on this refresh symbol. Can you see this refresh? So if you click over there, the things will be refreshed and whatever you have created newly will come here. Okay. Now the next is creating a new table. Can you see this next symbol next to the DB? This is for creating new table, new views, new stored procedures, and new functions. So now we will be doing them. I will be showing you how to write them through commands, because learning through commands is very, very important, because you can use the same command in different RDBMS. If you stick or if you rely only on the IDE part, the GUI part of it, then when you start to work in a different IDE, you will find it difficult to cope up. So I would suggest that any day, learn the commands Run all your statements through commands. Of course, you can get the benefit of your GUI at a point, but don't always rely on the GUI part. Fine. Now, here you could see these two icons. So this, this is open, right? This I have told you before itself. Here, this is same as this. Opening and loading a new SQL file. This is for saving. And this lightning symbol, can you see? The lightning based symbol, which is in yellow. Now that is mainly used to run a command. Now I will write a command and then I have to select that particular line and click on this. Then the command basically get executed. Now similarly, if I have some 2-3 lines, right now I'm keeping my cursor here. And if I'm clicking on this second lightning symbol, the query after my cursor will basically be executed. So I would recommend whatever command that you are going to execute, select it, highlight it, and click on this third symbol, which will basically run that command for you. Okay. Now is the settings understanding clear, like the different panes where you are going to work and all those? If things are clear, we can slowly start writing our commands. Any doubts, please ask. Great. Now, let's start writing some commands because that is the main aim for us. So at a very higher level, all these SQL commands that we are, you will be getting these slides also if you want, Shubham, and notes in the sense the queries. I will be sharing all these queries. So this is to everybody who might be having this question. I will be writing all my queries in this new notepad. Okay, maybe I will save it right now so I will not be missing it. Day 1. Okay, so now this day1.sql I will be sharing to the Learnbay team. Please do connect with the Learnbay team to whom you have been coordinating with. They will be sharing you this SQL file, which you can download and use it for your practice. Got that, Shubha? Okay, great. No problem. So let's start in writing our statements. So as I said, any commands that I'm going to write under SQL will fall in under any of these three categories. Now, if you wonder what is this DDL, DML, DQL, maybe people who have some idea on it before, they might be knowing. But if you are an absolute beginner who don't have idea on what is all this, it is nothing but different types of language that gets grouped under one common term called DML, DDL, and DQL. Now, I will walk you through all of them because these are the pillars of your SQL language. Now, this you will use day in, day out if you start working inside an SQL based project. And these understandings have to be really strong to grow up in the ladder for your SQL journey. So let's go by one. So first I will be talking about DDL, which means data definition language. You can see it here. Now under DDL, there are basically 4 different keywords that comes or 4 different commands with these keywords come. See, what is the very first aim for us? First step is to build a table. Now, only when I build a table, I can start feeding values inside it and I will store it. Now, in order to build a table, now when it comes to Excel sheet, it is very simple. I can just go ahead, grab some cells inside my Excel sheet, and I can start giving values, right? But when we come to RDBMS, we want to give it in a more precise way, wherein I will be setting some rules for all of these attributes or columns. In the sense, now I'm creating this for my store, right? Which is what we have been talking about, the store table. Now I want to keep all my store IDs here. I want to create all my store names here and the city under which that store is going to be. Now I have a very clear idea that the store ID will be a combination of alphabets and numbers. So I will allow a combo of alphabets and numbers only inside this particular field. Similarly, I know the store names will only be having letters inside it. I will not be having a name with only numbers inside it, right? So now these features I can specify. Now these are all the places where you will find an edge towards storing the data in a simple Excel sheet, right? So I'm going to create all these structure, the setup, using a command called create. I'll show this in lab. Just I will cover all this four and then I will take you into there. So now I can use a create statement there. Now, once I created it, I got an idea. No, let me have the store ID as only numbers. Okay. For some reason, my registration has got in such a way that I will be having only numbers in my store IDs. Then I need to change that setting, right? For that, you can go ahead in Alt. Now, any previously created setting you want to change, then you can use a command called Alt. So now you have built the setup, you have the structure been ready with you. Then I can go ahead and insert values inside it, right? That is where I will come to my DML command called data manipulation language. Now I will start inserting values using a command called insert. Now I started inserting the values. Let's imagine I started inserting some 5 values. Now after that, after I finished the 5th value, I kind of realized, no, all the data that I have fed were wrong for some or the other reason. Then I need to completely clear them out. Just the data. The structure, let it still there remains the same. Just the data that I have fed in. Then you can use a command called truncate, which will only clear out all the data inside the table, keeping the structure intact. Okay. Now again, I'm starting to insert values inside. Now after I start inserting, I find there are few changes that I have to do for the inserted value. Then you can use a command called update. For example, initially I have given the store name as style creations. I initially created it like creations. Then I just want to change it to something like with Z inside. Then I can go ahead and update. And similarly, any one record which I have mistakenly kept, only one or two record, then you can go ahead and use a delete command. Or maybe I want to delete certain records which fall under a category. For example, I have removed my store from one of the city. Then I want to remove that particular entries belonging to that city. Then you can use a delete command. Right. Now, I am done with this particular store, this particular store table. Now, no more I need the store table. For some reason, I just want to completely change the look and feel, or maybe I'm going completely online. I'm not going to have any physical store anymore. I know I don't need this entire table at all. Then you can use a drop command. So drop will completely delete the entries inside the table and the structure of the table will also be completely taken away. Okay, see, all these commands go hand in hand. It's not like you will use only DDL. It's not like you will use only DML. You should understand when and where you have to use it. So accordingly, you can use them at the place required. And finally, select comes under your DQL, which stands for data query language, which helps us to view or display the record that you have kept inside your table. Are we clear on the theory? I will anyway show you all of them in the lab part, but can you differentiate the delete? Sure, Sirisha. See, delete is basically to delete some entries, only some entries from your table. Like as I said, imagine you have entries inside the store table starting from 1 to 10. You have 10 stores. Okay. If somebody needs a live transcription from the participant section, may I know who is that? I got a request to enable the live transcription. Please let me know who needs. Okay. Yeah, coming to Sirisha's question. So you want to know the difference between delete and drop, right? The simple thing is, see, as I said, I have 10 different tables, so 10 different rows. Now, on this 10 different rows, I want to delete some of the entries which fall under a city, let's say Bangalore, right? I'm planning to completely stop all my stores in Bangalore. So if suppose I have some 5 different stores in Bangalore, instead of going and deleting one by one, you can simply select what are all the entries which belongs to Bangalore, delete all of them. So delete either one or multiple rows from your table. Use your delete command. Drop is to completely delete the entire table along with the structure itself. So it's not like one or two or record satisfying some category. You are interested in completely demolishing the table, deleting the table, dropping it completely, then in that case, you go ahead with drop command. Am I clear, Shirisha?
Madam, can you say truncate?
Ah, can I just get a confirmation from Shirisha? Okay, yeah. So truncate is basically only to delete the records inside the table. See, for example, again, I'm coming back to the shop table. Now, for some reason, I thought I completely want to delete all the entries inside my shop table. Let the structure remains the same. In the sense, I'm going to keep the structure of the table, which is store ID is one column, store name is a second column, city is a third column. What I don't want is the entries that are been already there inside the table, I don't want. If you have such a requirement, because I'm going to use the same table structure for some other entries, then you have to go for truncate. So only the records inside should be deleted, but the table structure has to be maintained. Then go for truncate. I want the structure also to be deleted, the entries inside the table also to be deleted. Then go for drop. Just relate with the English words. Drop is you're completely dropping them, right? Truncate is just you are cutting that part. You are cutting only the data part. Maybe with those words you can understand the differences better. Getting that? Somebody asked that. Yeah, Devendra. It's not just in Mongo. In all your databases, these terminologies are there. Truncate, drop, delete is there in all RDBMSs. And of course, in Mongo, in NoSQL databases also. Fine. Now let's get into our lab without wasting time.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. What is the difference, ma'am? MongoDB and RDBMS.
MongoDB is a NoSQL database. RDBMS are handling only structured data, right? Like your MySQL, your PostgreSQL or SQL Server. All these come under a category of SQL databases, which means it can handle only structured data. Like it has to be having a row and a column fashion. These columns must be there, and the columns should only contain numbers or should only contain characters. But when it goes to NoSQL databases, you can handle unstructured data also completely. It's not only for storing the structured data, it can also handle an unstructured data in it. MongoDB is one such NoSQL database.
Ma'am, can I know what is unstructured data?
Can you send the notes? I said that, right? I said that, Shaik. Unstructured data is basically anything which does not have a structure, in the sense which does not have a predefined rows and columns, like a simple text file, right? The chat messages that you share, the multimedia images that you have, multimedia files, it could be MP3, MP4, any such files which are basically not maintaining any structure inside. Okay. Yeah, videos, audios. Shaik, I will not be sending the notes right now. I said once the webinar is completed, you can collect it from the Learnbay. Yeah, I think that is what it's been shared. Fine.
Ma'am, can we use instead of using RDBMS
Mhm.
MongoDB?
You can use for structured data also, but then MongoDB works at its best when you start using it for unstructured data. The main aim of building MongoDBs or any NoSQL databases is to handle unstructured data. It can also handle structured data, but most importantly, it is designed efficiently to handle unstructured data. You mean Devendra in under RDBMS?
म्यूजियम एनी आईटी इंडस्ट्री में कौन सा ये करते हैं डेटाबेस यूज
You can find a lot of Oracle, lot of MySQL, lot of Teradata. These three are something which has been mostly used. Okay, fine. Let's start building the database first. Okay, so now how I'm going to build initially a database, I show you graphically how you can do. Click on this fourth icon, that will ask you what is the DB name that you want. But here, if you want to write create database, I'm just creating something called Learnbay Web. Now select this and click on run. Now I just selected it. If you want to know what I did to in order to run it, it is nothing. Just select this entire statement, click on the third icon, right, which is the lightning symbol, and then that statement gets executed. And the moment it gets executed, you can find on the output section at the back. Can you see this? One row affected. Can you see a green tick, a green color tick coming up? That is telling you that your statement is a success. And also you can refresh here and you can find this particular DB has been created. Now, once you create a DB, you have to step inside the DB in the sense, see, I can have multiple DBs now, and I can create and I can keep multiple tables inside every DB, right? So I have to first pick up what is the DB that I'm under which I want to keep my tables. So for that, write a command called use. Okay, select it and again click on it. The moment you run this use command, can you see this is getting highlighted in bold, which means right now you are under this Learnbay webinar folder. Okay. Now let's start building tables, which is most important. So I'm going to use our very first DDL command, which is create. So I'm going to take the example of our store itself. So I'm going to create an initial table called store with these 4 fields inside. So I'm going to write create store. The first column, I'm going to keep it as a storage. I'll explain the syntax. I will break this down and help you understand. Just let me write this first. Care of.
As much as possible. In and out parameters before getting this.
So store name, city, and state. These are the 4 fields. So now I'm going to select this and I'm going to click this symbol. Now, if you are looking out for any shortcut to run it in keyboard, it is basically control and enter. Select the line and click on control and enter. I think in Mac it will be command and enter. In Windows it is control and enter. That will help you to run it. Now let's understand what is this statement is trying to do. Now create table is a keyword which you have to remember. Create table. Store is the name of my table, and within which you have to specify what are all the attributes or the columns that you are interested in building. Okay, so the first column, the very first column that I'm interested in building is called store underscore ID. And after that, leaving a space, after that you have to specify the data type of that particular column. Now, what do you mean by this is what kind of values this store ID can accept. Now, as I know, I'm saying store ID will have a mix of letters and numbers. So when you have a mix of letters and numbers, it is obviously going to be considered as a string. Now, strings can be defined on your MySQL with the name called varchar, which refers for variable length of characters. And inside the bracket, I will specify a number, which means this store ID can store a maximum of 30 characters inside it, which can be a mix of numbers and letters inside. The same way, I'm saying store name, city, varchar. You can give any number. You can give 15, 2, 5, 10, any number. Just make sure you are giving a little on the higher end because the max capacity for that column is going to be just 30 characters. Now, by any chance, if I go beyond 30 characters for a store ID, then it gets removed after the 30th position. So make sure to give always on a higher end. A little higher end would suffice. Now, I have executed this and always end all your MySQL statements with a semicolon at the end, which is the rule, which is the syntax that you have to follow. Now I created the table, but can you say I'm not still able to view it on the left hand side? Go ahead and click on a refresh. Now you could see the tables. Click on the tables. You could see store. Now when I click on the store, I could find under the information section all the names coming in. Okay. Now I will start inserting values inside it. So we are done with our very first create command. Now after creation, I'm going to insert some values. How to insert? Insert into what is the name of your table? These are syntaxes which you have to remember. Okay. If in case you're thinking of what is these statements, these statements are going to help you to insert values inside the table. Now I'm going to insert inside this particular structure. So under store ID, suppose I'm writing store 01 and what was her name? Okay, pretty you. So something like pretty you, and it belongs to Bangalore, which is in Karnataka in India. So this, take this away, and now I have inserted this particular value. Now again, see every single statement by statement, when I hit, I could see a green symbol coming in, which tells the command is successfully done. Now I need to insert one more value. So I'm going to S02 and I'm calling a different name here. Style creations, right? Some name. Yeah. And I want to keep it in Chennai and I want to keep it in Tamil Nadu. And after that, one more entry finally. What was the name for this? Okay. So this something like Let's Rock and in Mumbai and in MH. Now I have inserted the third row also. Okay. Now 3 rows I have inserted inside my table, which is having the structure being maintained. Now I'm interested in viewing the records which I have inserted because I want to know whether they have been inserted as expected. Now how you can do? Click on this. Can you see the third symbol? If you keep your cursor over here, actually I'll take my cursor, it will go ahead. So I can't annotate and show you. But if you keep your cursor on the store, you could find a third symbol. Can you see a table with a pen on it? Click on that. That will basically help you to run. Oh, I haven't run the second command. I think I missed running the second command. Now go ahead and click on the store. You could see all the entries have been added. Can you see the result? So the records that I have kept inside my table. Yeah, Girija, I just now found it. Thanks, Girija, for letting me know. I ran it now. Clear, guys? Are you able to see the output? So this is how I can insert values inside a table. Now, there are multiple other ways also through which you can insert records, but this is the very first way that you have to understand in order to insert, especially when you are inserting values manually. Okay, now let's go into our very first okay, let me show you the select command. Maybe after that we can insert our second table also, and then we can go ahead and do an alter. Now coming to the DQL command. Now as I said, select is used to display, right, or to view the records inside the table. Now you can view them by simply clicking this third symbol also, or by command. If you want to do, you can write select star. Star represents everything from my table. Hit enter, you could find everything. Now suppose I'm saying, no, I don't want to see everything. I just want to see only 2 fields. I want to see just the store ID and the city from my table. Then just specify only those field names after your select and run. Now can you see only those 2 columns come? You can do that, Devendra, also. You can select all of them and click on run. I'm just starting up, right? So I just want to give the value one by one. But certainly you can select like this. You can select all these 3 and click on run button. That will also work. Okay, fine. Now let's quickly create our other table. My other table is my second one. So which I'm going to call it as a store product, because I will be having the product wise detail under every store there. So I'm going to create table store underscore product. And here also I need my store ID, as we know. And this store ID and the store ID on my previous table are same. So I'm just making sure that the data types are similar. And next is product ID. I want the product ID also to be a varchar, and price, right? Price, material, vendor. Okay. Price is basically a number, so I'm going to call them as an integer. Material, again, it can be varchar because it is going to hold some text like nylon or cotton or whatever. And then I'm going to have my vendor ID. Vendor ID again can be a mix of numbers and letters. So I'm going to call them as a varchar. So select it and click on this. Now again, as you see, the create table command has been done. Go ahead and quickly do a refresh. You could find the table being inserted. Now insert into store underscore product values. So S01 is 1 and I'm saying product P1. Let's say some price is 1000. Nylon. And this is my vendor. Now, similarly, let's just insert only one more value and then we can move on. S2. Cotton. Okay, now I'll select these two and I will try to run them. This is something that Devendra asked. So I'm just showing. Devendra, this is what you asked, right? Selecting two statements and running
Yes,
it
sir.
together. So I have selected these two and I click on the run. Now how you can, but one thing here is sometimes you might miss, as I missed one of the statements in between to run. So please, when you are selecting multiple lines together, make sure all of them comes at your output section, because if in case it is not there, it means you missed to run it. Or sometimes we thought we have selected it, it would have been missed by chance. How to see table? You mean how to see the records inside table, Shai? You can either write select star from table name or click on the third symbol on your right side after the table name. Can you explain line number 11 and 13? Line number 11 is to display everything inside your table, Sachin. So store is a table that I have created, right? You would have observed I created a store table and I have inserted values also inside. Now I want to view it, right? To check how the table basically looks like, because I created the structure, okay, and I insert values inside it. Now I want to have a look on how does it look, how the records inside it look. So that is why we are writing a select star. Star represents everything. And in this statement, I'm specifically writing the columns that alone I need. I don't want everything from the store, only these two columns from the store. Got it? Great. Fine. So now we have inserted records inside two table. We have created, of course, first, and then we have inserted. Now, can we alter the table now? Can we make some changes to the structure of a table? Because right now I'm done with my create command, insert command, and my select command. Now the next step is I have a thing to alter. So let's see how we can alter. So go to this. Which one let's alter? Let's say, okay, I'm having a price as an integer, right? Now, suppose I want integer, this price to be holding more than 10 digits. Now, price can only hold, integer can hold only up to 10 digit numbers. Now, I want to have it as a big integer because some of my products would be really costly. So for that reason, I want to change the data type of int to big int. Now, will it come under a data change or a schema change? Changing this int to big int, will it be coming under a change in the data or change in the structure? Question to all of you. A question is, I'm trying to change the data type of price from integer to big int because I want it to hold huge digits. Then will it come under the change of the structure or change of the data? Does it undergo under the changing this data types or changing the data actually? That is my question. Data type, right? As Harish saying, changing of the data type then, not the changing of the data. Devendra and Dennis, I don't know whether you get it wrong. See, int is a data type, right? So the moment, the moment when I change this integer, it means I'm changing the structure. I'm touching the schema. So whenever you are touching the schema or you are modifying the structure, see, structure is nothing but schema. Don't get confused if I use all these words. Structure is nothing but schema. If I touch the schema, either by changing the data type or by changing the column name or by dropping any one column name, then all those conditions, all those statements should be coming under alter command. If I touch the values inside the table or if I touch the data inside the table, then that comes under update. Am I clear? So when you make any change on the schema or on the structure of the table, you should be using a command called alter. When you change the values inside the table or the records inside the table, that comes under the update command. Hope that is clear. So now I'm going to obviously touch upon my schema. So hence write the alter command. Alter table, what is the name of the table that I want to touch upon? Product. And what is that I'm interested in changing? I'm basically going to modify the existing data type of price from int to big int. So the statement is, the keyword here is modify. Modify and then specify the column name. Initially it was int. Now I want to change it into big int. Now how I can cross verify this? See, right now under the information section, it is coming under price as int. Now the moment I run this and refresh, it should be changed to big int. So let's see whether it is happening or not. So I'm going to select it, I'm going to run it, and I'm going to do a quick refresh. The moment I did a refresh, I could see the values being modified as big int. Like this, you can change any of the data type to anything. You can delete a particular cell, but that comes under update. That becomes a data, right, Harish? The moment you are trying to delete a cell, you are trying to delete a data. That will come under the update. Is this line clear? Altering it. So now if you want to cross check, see if you feel no, cross checking it by seeing the information section is not good enough for me. Is there any other way? You can write a describe command. Okay, when you write a describe command, it will basically tell you what are all the different fields inside my table, what are all the different data types. Nullability default I have yet to cover. So right now just park these two, but then these two you can understand. This is the same as this. Just if you want to view it through command, you can do it in this way. Okay. Fine. Now also I want to do one more change. You tell me whether that comes under alter or update. Okay, or you tell me whether that comes under a schema change or the data change. Now I don't want the material to be present under my store product table anymore. This column I don't want anymore inside my table. Will it come under changing the schema or changing the data? Schema, how about others? Okay, I'll write the command. Parallelly, you can keep your answers coming. So store product, I'm going to drop it, right? I'm just going to delete one particular column alone. The column that I'm trying to delete is basically called material. So now just write this command, hit enter. Now you could find, refresh. Now you could automatically see the column called material has been taken away. Can you see? No more material inside my table. Like this, if at all I want a particular column itself to be completely taken away from the table, then use again the alter command. Okay. Drop schema. Yeah, correct. Fine. Now that is with your alter command. Now let's move on to update. Okay, because right now I have some values inside my table, so I'm going to update some records inside my table. Now for that, let me quickly view my records. These are the values, right? Now suppose I'm just trying to update some of the entries inside my table, which is basically the value. Now update table store product set. You should directly write update table name set let me change the price. Maybe she's trying to change the price of the product P1 to 1500, where prod underscore ID is equal to P1. Okay. Now I'll first explain this statement, then we can go ahead and run it. Alter and update both. No, Devendra, no. How come they will be same? That is what I have been explaining so far, right? Okay, I'll come to your question. Just a minute. Let me run this and come back. Yeah. So update the table, set price. Now, what is this keyword set is? What is the change that you are looking for? What is the change that I'm looking for? My use case is I want the product one's price to change to 1500. Right now it is showing as 1000, but I want to change it into 1500. That is my use case. So what I have to do, I need to update this price to 1500 where product ID equal to P1. Now, if in case I'm not writing this line, what do you think will happen when I run this command? Update table name set price is equal to 1500. What will happen without this statement? Any guesses what will happen? It will update every record to 1500. Exactly, right? Both the records prices it will update to 1500. But my use case is not that. I specifically want only for this product ID's price to be changed. Then you have to invoke a new command called where. So this is called class, where class, which can be appended along with an update command or a select command or a delete command also. So when you want to enforce a constraint and only records satisfying that constraints, this change has to be reflected. Then you can write this command. So let me run this. Okay, and you could see the statement is a success. So I'm just quickly trying to view the records to see whether the record has been modified. The record is certainly modified. Now coming to question of Devendra. Alter and update, how can they be same? See, when I'm doing an update, I'm basically touching or modifying the records inside the table, right, Devendra? Wherein when I do an alter, I'm modifying the schema of the table, the structure of the table. The change that I'm going to reflect using alter will be reflected to all the records in the table. Wherein when I do an update or a delete or a select, I can specify a where condition so that only that particular record alone gets affected, not the schema. So when you want to affect the schema or when you want to change the schema, use alter. When you want to change or modify the records inside your table, use update. As simple as it goes. Am I clear? Perfect. Now coming back to, okay, we did insert, update. We are left out with delete, truncate and drop. Let me touch upon delete first. Let's go to our other table, right? We are not touching anything on that table. So I'm going to run this command, select star from store. I could see there are 3 records. Now here I'm interested in deleting the record which is there on TN, which is there on the state TN. So delete from store underscore product where state equal to TN. Now what this has to do, it has to first go and apply the where class. It will identify, okay, what are all the rows which satisfies this where class. Okay, it got this one record, then delete that one record. Got it? Now again tell me, what do you think will happen if I not write this where statement? I will simply write delete from table. What do you think will happen? What do you think will happen when I simply write delete from table name? Exactly, Brashita. It deletes all the records. So please don't do that. Exactly. All of you guys are right. Okay, all the data inside the table gets deleted. So now this is something that generally you have to be very, very careful in dealing with because sometimes if I miss to write a where statement and just imagine the table is having some 1 lakh records inside it, that's it. And if at all there is an auto commit is in the sense it will not even ask you, do you really want to delete? Like the way that we do get in all other apps and everything. So it automatically deletes it and it will become a huge mess. So whenever you are writing a delete command, please be aware that are you really intended to delete the entire records? Then go ahead and do. Otherwise, please make sure that you are adding an where condition at the end always. Anything you can use, Sachin. You can write state or you can city, anything you can write. At the end, all of them are columns, right? So instead of using state, can we use city in the where command? Yes, very well. Let me first delete this and maybe I'll show you that also. See, I'm running this. We don't have a state field. Okay, I'm writing it in store product. Okay, now see. Now it says this command is a success. Let go and run it. Can you see the Chennai entry has been taken away? Now as who was that who asked? Sachin asked, he wants city to be mentioned. So I'm writing city is equal to Mumbai. I hope this is what you're asking, right, Sachin? I deleted that also. And now I could see, yes. See, at the end, city, state, store name, store ID, all of them are column names. You can use anything that you want. Can we undo the delete? Ideally, Harish, that's a very good question, but then it purely depends upon whether you're setting your RDBMS at an auto commit true or false. Auto commit basically means whenever you are making changes like update or delete, it automatically gets committed. It will not even ask you. But then when the auto commit is not selected, it will ask you. So it depends upon the database level. You can control it, by the way. Okay, fine. So I will quickly show, give me a second. Okay, yeah, let me quickly cover this and then we can drop off for the day. So we have truncate and drop, and by now hope you guys know the difference between them. So I'll quickly show the table. We have one record inside the table, sadly. Okay, let me quickly insert them so you can have a better view. I'm inserting 2 more records into the table. So right now I will be having 3 records. Great. Now I'm going to write truncate table store. What do you think will happen after this? What do you think will happen? I'm selecting this, clicking on run. It's a success. Now, if I go ahead and do this, will I be able to see all the records or no? If I do a select star. Quick, yes or no, when I do a select star. I did a truncate. I'm going to do a select star. Okay, Den is saying there will not be any records, and he's absolutely right. Right? Because truncate will help you to delete all the records inside the table. But remember, the structure is still the same. The structure still exists, right? Exactly, Harish. So now I'm going to drop the table. Now, the moment when I drop the table should no more be there. Can you see the table itself got deleted? And also parallelly, you could find store is not available here. So that's the simple difference between truncate and drop. Please remember, it's a very simple difference, but then some of the beginners tend to get confused between these two statements. So what I would say is just go by the simple word meaning. When you drop it, you're completely dropping it. But then when you're truncating it, you're cutting a part of it, which is basically the records inside it. So please be very clear on the differences between these three. Okay, so sometimes there can be a question in interview also which can say, can I make a delete command work similar to the way of a truncate command? Yes, when you simply write delete from store, it is very similar to truncate table store. Am I right? When I just write delete from store, isn't it similar to truncate table store? So these kind of questions can be asked. So you can, you yourself can try out all this so that You can understand and have a very clear picture and a very clear difference between these three, because as I said, these three are coming in all of your RDBMS. So you learn only one time a language, you can apply that in Oracle also, Teradata also, MySQL also, SQL Server, wherever you go. Hyphen, if I want to leave a particular row as hyphen, I don't know what is row as hyphen. You mean empty? I am running this right now. There is no such table. I don't know. I'm not understanding the question is asking. So select star from table. This is how hyphen means. You mean a value, or just insert within quotes. That's it. Okay. So that without a value, just keep it empty, right? So if in case insert into value, just keep them empty. If it is a varchar, just leave it like this. If it's just a number, you can also keep a null value in it, but then null, I will be coming to null tomorrow, like how to deal with nulls and all those. Okay, maybe you have to hold on there for some time. So that brings us to the end of an SQL commands, and I mean the list of SQL commands and the commands within which tomorrow I'll be touching upon operators, classes, and constraints. Okay. So will we have detailed? Yes, Mohammed, we do have joins and unions tomorrow.